I was accused of seducing the CEO to sleep my way to the top, but no one knows I'm his legitimate wife. The CEO wanted to flaunt our love, but I told him to keep a low profile. He wanted to make our marriage public. And again, I urged him to stay low-key. At the annual party, the host invited him on stage to give a speech and send his wishes. Then came the bombshell. Yes, my twin daughters turn 1 month old today. I nearly dropped my jaw when I saw Gu Qingyan at the company's welcoming ceremony. Wasn't this my husband? Just about 2 hours ago, he was still at home whining about not wanting to be a part. How did he suddenly parachute into our company as the CEO? My slightly twisted expression didn't draw any attention because everyone's eyes were fixed on Gu Qingyan. I overheard 2 female colleagues standing in front of me whispering excitedly, "Oh my God, the new CEO is actually so handsome. Handsome, rich. And the CEO, I so want to marry him. Woo, dream on. The CEO is already married. How I envy Mrs. Gu." And right behind them, Mrs. Gu was listening with a twitching lip. To welcome CEO Gu, who was transferred from headquarters, our branch had been preparing for a whole week. The welcoming ceremony was grand and lavish. Even a small employee like me had been running ragged for days, only to wait and find out it was him. Gu Qingyan walked slowly down the red carpet, impeccably dressed. His tailored suit fit perfectly, making him look even taller and more handsome. Spotting me, he subtly winked. The 2 women in front gasped again, while I mentally scolded him for being such a show-off. Right after the ceremony ended, I took out my phone from my pocket and was instantly bombarded by Gu Qingyan's messages. "Baby, how was it? Are you happy with the surprise I gave you? Baby, from now on we can commute to work together. Baby, how about I move you directly to my office? We can set up another desk here for you to work. Baby, or better yet, why don't you become my secretary? The one outside can't do anything right. I really don't like her." This was followed by a sad kitten sticker. My lip twitched. Who would have thought that the cold, handsome CEO everyone saw was actually a love-struck romantic who flooded screens with cute kitten stickers in private? I had to reply to him one by one. The surprise was shocking, but let's keep it low-key at the company. I don't want to be gossiped about every day. That secretary is just doing her job and hasn't done anything to you. So stop picking on her, okay? Then I sent back a stern kitten sticker. Our company doesn't strictly forbid office romances, but I really don't want people looking at me differently or saying I climbed the ladder by sleeping with a man. So, I was actually a bit angry that Gu Qingyan had parachuted into our company without telling me. Why leave headquarters to come to a branch when everything was fine there? During the lunch break, Gu Qingyan's secretary, wearing 8-centimeter red high heels, came to our department to fetch me. "Zhou Yiyi, CEO Gu wants you to go upstairs and report on the spreadsheet submitted this morning," she said with a haughty expression. Manager Li smiled obsequiously as he saw Secretary Wang off, then glanced at me with concern. "The CEO isn't planning to make an example of you, is he?" In his eyes I was already the slaughtered chicken. I patted his shoulder reassuringly. The balding man in his 40s was usually strict with us but turned out to be quite protective at critical moments. "It's fine. I think my spreadsheet was well done, so there shouldn't be any problems," I reassured him. His expression changed, and he glared, saying, "I'm afraid you'll drag the whole department down with you. I'm your direct supervisor, so I can't escape responsibility." Gu Qingyan's office was on the top floor of the company, where there weren't many people coming and going, fitting his cold, quiet public image perfectly. I walked in without knocking and just happened to see Secretary Wang bending over in a rather suggestive posture, wiping coffee stains off Gu Qingyan's chest. When he saw me, Gu Qingyan's eyes lit up, while Secretary Wang frowned and scolded. "Don't you know any manners? Can't you knock before entering?" Gu Qingyan shot her an unhappy glare and said coldly, "Get out." Seeing me stand still, Secretary Wang repeated, "Can't you hear what CEO Gu said? He told you to get out." "I meant you." Gu Qingyan raised his voice and shouted at Secretary Wang. She froze, as if surprised by his reaction, her eyes reddening pitifully. Straightening up awkwardly, she shot me a glare before swaying out with her wavy hair. I gave her an apologetic smile, turned around, and closed the door. As soon as I did, a tall figure pounced on me from behind. Gu Qingyan nuzzled my ear and neck like an affectionate big dog. "Wife, I missed you so much," he murmured, his breathing growing heavier as he tried to kiss me. I quickly put my hand between our lips. With so many eyes outside watching us, if I walked out with swollen lips, Who wouldn't wonder what had happened inside? What would happen to my reputation then? I pretended to be angry and pushed him away, sitting in the executive chair. Seeing my annoyed expression, he stood meekly to the side. For a moment, it felt like our roles were reversed. "What were you doing with Secretary Wang just now?" "So intimate," I said sarcastically. He frowned and complained pitifully. "Baby, I told you before you should be my secretary. She's so clumsy and can't do anything right. She even spilled coffee on me. I'll fire her later." He tugged at his stained shirt, genuinely annoyed. I was speechless for a moment. Secretary Wang's obvious attempt at seduction was completely lost on Gu Qingyan, who was as dense as a block of wood, and didn't he pick up on her hints at all? "Then why did you suddenly come to the branch?" I slapped the armrest and demanded. "I missed you," Gu Qingyan said pitifully. "Wife, don't you want to see me? Don't you love me anymore?" Knowing he was about to start nagging me about whether I loved him or not, I quickly cut him off. All right. But at the company, you absolutely must keep our relationship a secret. I don't want people gossiping behind my back," I emphasized. Before I left, Gu Qingyan called Secretary Wang back in and handed her the invoice for his custom-made shirt, telling her expressionlessly to remember to reimburse him. Secretary Wang's face immediately turned green. Especially since I was there, she felt even more embarrassed. I struggled to hold back my laughter. When Manager Li saw me return unharmed, without any signs of being scolded to tears, he finally relaxed. He pulled me aside and whispered, "You have no idea CEO Gu was called the cold-faced king of hell at headquarters. Even the smallest mistake would earn you a scolding, and many senior employees have been reduced to tears by him." He looked at me with a bit more admiration. "As expected of someone I trained, you didn't embarrass me." I was surprised. Who would have thought Gu Qingyan was so intimidating at headquarters? Manager Li asked me about the spreadsheet again, and I vaguely brushed it off. Gu Qingyan hadn't mentioned the spreadsheet at all. After work, I ignored the black Maybach honking repeatedly nearby and headed straight to the subway station outside the company to take the train home. Gu Qingyan arrived home shortly after me, and he complained pitifully, "Baby, why didn't you ride in my car? I could have been your chauffeur. It would have made your commute so much easier," he volunteered. I flatly refused. I said we need to keep a low profile at the company. What would people say if they saw me getting into your car? Let them talk. We could just publicly announce that you're my wife, he muttered unhappily. "Baby, you're not ashamed of me, are you?" Gu Qingyan asked pitifully. I cut off his plan to announce it at the morning meeting and urged him to go cook. In our home, Gu Qingyan always did the cooking. He claimed it was because he was afraid of my dark culinary experiments blowing up the kitchen, but deep down, he couldn't bear to make me cook after work every day. For this, he even took cooking lessons from a 5-star restaurant chef. I also loved watching him cook. The tall man in dress pants and a white shirt, wearing a floral apron, with his sleeves rolled up to reveal toned forearms, it was a charming contrast between a corporate elite and a diligent homemaker. After a satisfying meal, seeing my pleased expression, he leaned in to discuss with me again. "Wife, when should we have our wedding?" I raised an eyebrow. "Are you in a hurry?" "Of course I am," Gu Qingyan said. "We need to make it public soon so I can relax." Even the few friends who knew about our relationship were surprised by our dynamic. Others might assume I'd be constantly worried about him having affairs outside, but in our case, it was completely the opposite. I shrugged and said, "You didn't behave well today, so I'll have to think about it carefully." Before I could finish, Gu Qingyan scooped me up into his arms and carried me into the bedroom. I gasped as he pinned me beneath him, his voice husky as he whispered in my ear, "Then let me make it up to you now." The next morning, I woke up sore and aching, and in a fit of irritation, I kicked Gu Qingyan in the butt. He woke up in pain. Then seeing me, immediately got clingy and tried to kiss me. "Wife, you worked so hard last night. Are you going to work today? How about taking the day off? I'll approve it for you." Blushing with anger, I kicked him again, stubbornly got out of bed, and went to freshen up. By the time I came out of the bathroom, Gu Qingyan had already warmed up some bread slices. He eagerly handed me the toast and hot milk, and I couldn't stay mad at him anymore. After eating, I rushed to the office. Luckily, I wasn't late. Just as I stepped out of the elevator, I ran into Secretary Wang. For some reason, I felt she held a lot of hostility toward me. Secretary Wang scanned me up and down, saw me panting as I stopped, and snorted coldly. "A mere clerk, arriving so late. Anyone would think you're the CEO." Surprised, I raised my hand to check the time. There were still 2 minutes until work started. I couldn't take it anymore and was about to retort when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Listening to your tone, I'd think you were the CEO, Secretary Wang. Seeing Gu Qingyan following me in, panicked and stuttered. And no, CEO Gu, that's not what I meant. Gu Qingyan strode toward the other end of the hallway without looking back, his face cold as ice. Secretary Wang flusteredly followed him, trying to explain. The scene was quite comical, and I couldn't hold back a laugh. Secretary Wang even found time to glare at me over her shoulder, which only made me laugh louder. I walked into the office right as the workday started. Shen Yi at the next desk gave me a thumbs up. Seems they all heard the commotion at the elevator. Li Yishan turned around with a worried look and said, "Yi, be more polite to Secretary Wang. You can't afford to offend her, anger her, and she might make things difficult for you." I raised an eyebrow. How exactly does a boss's secretary plan to make things difficult for the boss's wife? Seeing that I didn't seem convinced, Li Yishan leaned closer and whispered, "The secretary is, after all, the CEO's confidant. And you know, female secretaries, they usually have that kind of relationship with the boss. If she whispers a few words in his ear, you could lose your job." He winked, giving me a meaningful look. I was stunned. How come I didn't know about this with Gu Qingyan? Wait, does this guy not know that spreading rumors is illegal? I pressed my lips together, planning to advise him kindly. It's a new era. No need for such stereotypes or spreading baseless rumors. Li Yishan smirked and continued, "I've been with the company for several years, longer than you. Don't I know these things? Don't doubt me. I'm telling you this because I like you. There are plenty of women in the company trying to climb up to CEO Gu." He glanced disdainfully at our colleagues who were working diligently. "They're all shallow, money-grubbing women. Don't be like them," he added softly. He was usually good at flattery and played the office politics well. Manager Li thought highly of him too. I was speechless for a moment, not knowing how to respond. He probably thought he had convinced me, patted my shoulder, and walked away satisfied. At noon, Gu Qingyan bombarded me with messages again, coming up with various excuses to get me to join him for lunch. Just as I was figuring out how to reply, Li Yishan suddenly appeared beside me, startling me. I quickly put away my phone. "Yi, let's go out for lunch together today." I was about to politely refuse when he added, "It's mainly because there's an issue with the spreadsheet you just gave me. It's due this afternoon, and I'm worried there's not enough time." Hearing this, I nodded and agreed. Work was indeed more important. Then, I secretly messaged Gu Qingyan to eat alone. Sure enough, he started sulking again unhappily. Li Yishan and I didn't go far, just to a small restaurant near the company, a 10-minute drive. After he quickly ordered a bunch of dishes, we were left sitting awkwardly across from each other. He stammered, looking like he wanted to say something but couldn't get it out, his face turning a purplish red. Sensing his struggle, I kindly took the initiative. "Brother Li, did you want to tell me something?" Seeing the unusual flush rise on his already purple face, I had a bad feeling. "Yi, we've been working together for over a year now. You must have noticed that I usually take good care of you. I wanted to ask you, would you be willing to be my girlfriend?" he said shyly, lowering his head. Startled, I quickly waved my hands. No, Brother Li, I already have a husband. We're not suitable." Li Yishan seemed like he wanted to argue, but just then, the wind chime at the restaurant door jingled, and a tall, long-legged man walked in. I watched as Gu Qingyan strode straight toward us, his eyes seeming to spit fire. Cold sweat broke out on my back. How did he find this place? And how much of the conversation had he heard? As Gu Qingyan approached, with World War III about to break out, I quickly stood up and said loudly, "Hello, CEO Gu." The sudden greeting stunned both Gu Qingyan and Li Yishan, breaking the tense atmosphere. Gu Qingyan nodded with a dark expression and, under my frantic eye signals, reluctantly walked to a nearby table. Li Yishan finally snapped back to reality. Interrupted. His expression wasn't great, but he still persisted. "Yi, I've observed no man has ever picked you up or dropped you off at work. If you really had a husband, he's utterly incompetent." As soon as he finished, I closed my eyes and silently mourned for him. Sure enough, a loud thud came from the next table as Gu Qingyan forcefully set his cup down. "Yi, dump him and be with me," Li Yishan continued, blissfully unaware. I could already feel the gloomy gaze from behind boring into my back, sending chills down my spine. I had no doubt that if I dared to agree, Gu Qingyan would come charging over with the table knife right then, so I firmly refused him. Brother Li, we're really not suitable, and I love my husband very much. You'll definitely meet a better woman in the future. With that, I tried to slip out the door, but before I took a few steps, Gu Qingyan called out, Zhou Yiyi, heading back? Then let's go together. It's on the way. Without ordering anything, he strode ahead of me with wind-like steps. I stiffly obeyed, ignoring Li Yixin's shouts, and followed Gu Qingyan out. Sitting in the passenger seat of Gu Qingyan's Maybach, I didn't dare say a word, shivering under the cold aura he was emitting. Oh no! Oh no, Gu Qingyan was angry. Gu Qingyan drove like lightning, but instead of heading toward the company, he pulled over in a secluded, sparsely populated corner. Before I could react, he undid my seatbelt and pulled me tightly into his arms. It felt like forever before he finally let me go, and I was almost out of breath. His voice was full of grievance, even tinged with a sob. Baby, why did you have to eat alone with him? Don't you want me anymore? I hugged him back, gently patting his back as if soothing a giant baby. How could that be? Didn't I reject him? I already have such a perfect husband, how could I possibly get involved with someone else? That was the truth. He said you were going to dump me, Gu Qingyan said resentfully. My explanations seemed to fall on deaf ears. Ignoring my resistance, he kissed me for a full 5 minutes before letting go. On the way back to the company, he was finally happy, but I refused to speak to him as I looked at my slightly swollen lips in the mirror. After getting out of the car, Gu Qingyan clung to me, demanding a goodbye kiss before reluctantly letting go. As I turned around, I ran into Secretary Wang again at the corner. I froze. What terrible timing. Secretary Wang saw me getting out of Gu Qingyan's car with swollen lips. With a sour expression, she followed me into the elevator. As the floor numbers rose, her sarcastic voice came from behind me. Well, aren't you shameless? Daring to seduce CEO Gu in broad daylight. Do you know that if I spread this, you won't be able to stay in the company? She said, looking at me with venom. I thought for a moment, then suddenly relaxed my brow and smiled at her. Then go ahead and spread it. You, Secretary Wang was furious. Let me tell you, I'm CEO Gu's personal secretary. I won't allow a cheap woman like you to cling to him. Oh. I raised an eyebrow. Is it that you don't want me clinging to him, or that you want to cling to him yourself? The elevator reached my floor with a ding. Without bothering with Secretary Wang stomping angrily behind me, I stepped out. Back in the office, I felt Li Yixin staring at me. I wanted to ignore it, but the gaze was too intense. Finally, I asked helplessly, Brother Li, do you have something to say to me? Li Yixin angrily pulled me to an empty corner at the end of the hallway and demanded, Where did you go with CEO Gu just now? I was at a loss for words, my eyes darting around as I tried to come up with an excuse. Enough. Don't lie to me. Li Yixin suppressed his furious voice. And here you said you already had a husband. I should have seen it earlier. You're no different from those gold diggers. All you know is clinging to the rich and powerful. Is he just richer and handsomer than me? So you'd rather throw yourself at him than accept my sincere feelings? With that, he stormed off angrily. I stood there, stunned and unsure what to do. After a while, my phone buzzed with 2 WeChat messages from Li Yixin. Split the lunch bill with me. Total 259. Send me 130. And there's a 5 yuan parking fee. Remember to split that too. I was wrong about you. Don't come looking for me again. Speechless, I still politely transferred the money to him. I hadn't even eaten a single dish. A few days later, for some reason, I felt my colleagues were looking at me strangely. Sometimes they would point and whisper behind my back, falling silent as soon as I approached. Had Secretary Wang really spread rumors about me at the company? Finally, after work one day when everyone else had left, Shen Yi pulled me aside. After hesitating for a long time, she asked, Yi, you and CEO Gu, is it true? I was shocked and instinctively asked, How did you know? I thought I'd hidden it well all these days. How was it discovered? It must have been the marks he left last time that gave it away. I silently cursed Gu Qingyan. Shen Yi seemed surprised by my reaction. With a pained expression, she said, Now it's spread throughout our department. You really didn't need to go that far. Ah, she sighed, then continued, I'm telling you this as a friend. A girl should maintain her dignity. Wait, I interrupted, sensing something off. What do you mean? What happened between me and CEO Gu? Shen Yi paused, then explained everything. It turned out that after returning at noon that day, Li Yixin angrily told everyone about Gu Qingyan and me driving off together. In his version, I was desperately clinging to CEO Gu, doing everything to get close to him. And my swollen lips when I returned confirmed his story. Hearing this, I was so angry I almost couldn't catch my breath. Furious, I wanted to confront Li Yishan, but before I could step out, a tall, glamorous figure blocked my way. Secretary Wang. Zhou Yiyi, how can you be so shameless, doing such disgraceful things and then bragging about it? Secretary Wang pointed at me, her face cold as she berated me. You cheap woman! How dare you think you're worthy of CEO Gu, and you have the nerve to publicly flaunt your affair with him, as if you're not ashamed enough. Her eyebrows furrowed in rage. You've even dragged CEO Gu's reputation through the mud. Her voice was loud, and a few colleagues still in the hallway stopped to listen, their ears perked up for gossip. I was momentarily stunned by her outburst, but when it sank in, I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. And what does my relationship with CEO Gu have to do with you? What? If I'm not worthy of him, does that mean you are? I stepped closer, pressing her step by step. I knew exactly what she was thinking. Gu Qingyan had just transferred to an unfamiliar company, and she spent the most time with him daily. Of course, she thought she had the advantage. If she could seduce him, she'd rise from rags to riches. That's why she saw me as a thorn in her side, harboring such hostility. But she didn't know I was different from her. I was Gu Qingyan's legitimate wife. My words left Secretary Wang speechless with anger. She raised her hand to slap me, but before it could land, Gu Qingyan, who had rushed over, grabbed her arm and stopped her. He'd been waiting for me downstairs and, growing worried when I didn't appear, came up to check. He glared at Secretary Wang furiously. Wang Shu, what are you doing? How dare you? As soon as this classic domineering CEO line came out, Secretary Wang was indeed frightened, taking 2 steps back and trembling as she tried to explain. CEO Gu, this woman is spreading rumors everywhere that she's involved with you. She's clearly ruining your reputation. If headquarters finds out you're messing around with an employee right after arriving, Wang Shi threatened through gritted teeth. Gu Qingyan firmly held my hand, composed himself, and looked down at Wang Shu. Who said Zhou Yiyi was seducing me? She's my legitimate wife. Wang Shu stared at us in disbelief, her pointing finger trembling uncontrollably. Watching this scene, I found it utterly hilarious. But before I could laugh, my vision suddenly spun, and the next second, I fainted. Luckily, Gu Qingyan caught me just in time. He didn't bother dealing with Wang Shu and immediately drove me to the hospital. The test results came out quickly. When I woke up in the hospital, Gu Qingyan was already sitting beside me, holding the report with a worried look on his face. Seeing I was awake, he immediately pressed the call button to summon the doctor. Fortunately, I was fine. The doctor gave a few instructions. You must take care of your health. Don't overexert yourself. How can you be so careless when you're pregnant? What kind of mother are you going to be? What? I sat bolt upright as if startled from a near-death experience. I'm pregnant? Gu Qingyan, you animal. The doctor was taken aback, his expression growing even more disapproving. Young people just don't know how to protect themselves. Carelessly creating a life. So irresponsible, doctor. We will take responsibility. This time, it was Gu Qingyan who cut the doctor off, gripping my hand and speaking firmly. The doctor, unwilling to watch Gu Qingyan flaunt his affection, turned and left. Meanwhile, I was still reeling from the sudden news, unable to calm down for a long time. Baby, Gu Qingyan interrupted my daze, holding my left hand. Since we already have a little one on the way, we should move the wedding plans forward. I know it's a bit sudden now, but I've actually been planning for a long time. I promise I'll arrange a grand wedding for you. He looked into my eyes sincerely. I was still a bit stunned. This unexpected pregnancy had truly thrown my plans into disarray. Baby, you're not unwilling, are you? Gu Qingyan asked nervously, seeing my delayed response, tightening his grip on my hand. You wouldn't want to shirk responsibility, would you? Are you planning to run away pregnant? His voice was plaintive. I couldn't help but twitch the corner of my mouth. Had Gu Qingyan been reading too many romance novels? Why was he acting more like a resentful wife than I was? All right. I patted his hand soothingly. I'll agree, okay? Gu Qingyan happily gave my cheek 2 loud kisses. Watching him joyful like a child, I couldn't help but find it amusing. Although the baby wasn't part of my plan, Gu Qingyan gave me the confidence to face all the unknowns ahead. I stayed in the hospital for a few days to recuperate before being discharged. The next day, I returned to the company. Actually, Gu Qingyan wanted me to rest at home for my pregnancy, but I refused. Under my strong insistence, he reluctantly drove me to the company himself. Nonsense! Even if I were to resign, I had to deal with the scumbag and the shameless woman first. When I walked into the office, Everyone's eyes instantly focused on me and Gu Qingyan behind me. Now that everyone knew about our relationship, there was nothing left to hide. Under everyone's watchful gaze, I walked up to Li Yixin and asked him slowly, "Brother Li, was it you who spread rumors behind my back, saying I seduced CEO Gu, slept my way to the top, and schemed desperately to climb the ladder?" Li Yixin's face turned pale, then flushed. He hadn't expected me to confront him in front of so many people. His excuses were weak. "I didn't. It wasn't me. Really. It wasn't you." I feigned confusion. "But you also gossip behind Sister Li's back, calling her a gold digger, said Brother Wang was living off his wife, and even claimed Manager Li got his position through connections, not ability. You have quite a track record. It's hard for me to trust you instantly." Several angry gazes fixed on Li Yixin. Manager Li's eyes especially seemed capable of boring a hole through the back of his head. You're talking nonsense. You're trying to sow discord. You're slandering me." He stumbled over his words, his rebuttal incoherent and flustered. I straightened up and gave him a sidelong glance. "Whether it's slander or not will be clear soon. I've already hired a lawyer. I'm suing you for defamation and damaging my reputation." Looking down at him coldly, my gaze made him panic. He lunged forward, trying to grab my collar, but Gu Qingyan, who had been watching from behind me, blocked him. "I warn you to show some respect to my wife. Keep your hands to yourself, or I'll add another charge to your list," Gu Qingyan said coldly. He had always disliked Li Yixin, especially after the guy dared to try and steal his girl right in front of him. Li Yixin stood there completely stunned, his eyes vacant, speechless. As I turned to leave, I heard whispers behind me and Li Yixin's desperate pleas for help. Manager Li, of course, showed him no kindness, telling him to get lost before storming off. No one in the company would help him now, but I was past caring. I pressed the elevator button, held my head high, and headed to my next battlefield, with Gu Qingyan closely following. When Wang Shu saw Gu Qingyan and me coming up together, a flicker of surprise crossed her eyes. After a brief pause, she recovered and greeted Gu Qingyan. "Hello, CEO Gu." Beneath her submissive expression, I could still see the venomous glare she shot my way. I walked straight toward her with a smile. "Secretary Wang, why only greet the CEO? Don't you know how to say hello to me? What are you?" Wang Shu snapped, unable to hold back from confronting me head-on. "What am I?" I covered my mouth in feigned surprise again, speaking in a sweet, deceptive tone. "Oh, sorry. I'm your boss's wife now. What did you say?" Secretary Wang's eyes widened in fury, her meticulously crafted mask shattering. She still refused to believe it. "How could CEO Gu marry you? Don't delude yourself." Gu Qingyan stepped forward expressionlessly and pulled me into his embrace. Prepared, I took our marriage certificate out of my bag and waved it back and forth in front of Wang Shu twice. Wang Shu's eyes reddened, as if she were about to cry from anger. Gu Qingyan added, "Secretary Wang, given your poor work performance these days, pack your things and go to HR to process your resignation. I really don't know how you got into this company. You lack basic work skills, and you know perfectly well where your mind has been every day. Stop scheming. You don't have what it takes." Hearing Gu Qingyan's cold assessment, I almost laughed out loud. No wonder Manager Li said he'd made many employees cry. His words were indeed sharp. Secretary Wang covered her face and ran out, thoroughly reduced to tears. I had finally vented my anger. After Gu Qingyan fulfilled his role as my supporter, he held me somewhat helplessly and asked, "Feeling better now? You could have let me handle all this. Did you really have to do it yourself?" I nuzzled into his embrace, feeling clingier since becoming pregnant. "Maybe it's a girl. What do you know? These things are much more satisfying when you take revenge yourself. All right. As long as you're happy." After the wedding, my pregnancy symptoms were severe. Gu Qingyan insisted I stay home and temporarily stop working. He even hired two aunties to watch over and care for me. Staying at home was rather boring, but thankfully Zhou Yiyi still found time to visit me. "Now there are all sorts of versions of how you and CEO Gu fell in love circulating in the company," she said with a wink, gossiping eagerly. "Oh, what versions?" I was intrigued. "Tell me." "For example," Zhou Yiyi counted on her fingers, "there's the rich young mistress runs away pregnant, and the domineering CEO searches for her across the miles version, and there's one where you were undercover in the branch as CEO Gu's informant," Zhou Yiyi added. "Manager Li is very relieved now that he didn't give you too hard a time back then." We both laughed. Since I became pregnant, Manager Li had indeed visited often with gifts, always saying he'd failed to recognize my status earlier and hoped I'd forgive any past missteps. That evening, when Gu Qingyan came home, I couldn't help but ask him, "So, did manager Li really get his position through connections?" Seeing my gossipy expression, Gu Qingyan helplessly tapped my nose. "He's a bit slick and worldly, but his workability is beyond question. Even without the flattery and social maneuvering, the manager position would still be his. Honestly, my pregnancy was tough. My belly grew bigger. I couldn't eat or sleep well, and I ached all over every day. When Gu Qingyan took me for a checkup, we found out I was carrying twins. Pregnancy is hard enough. Carrying twins is doubly so. But Gu Qingyan worked hard too. He turned down almost all social engagements, came home early every day to take care of me, and spent a lot of time learning about prenatal care and postpartum recovery. Even though we had two aunties, he preferred to do many things himself. I wish I could take over even my eating and bathroom breaks. Gu Qingyan often teared up while massaging me, hugging me and saying we'd never have more kids, that he'd never let me suffer like this again. Fortunately, my delivery went smoothly. The moment the delivery room door opened, the first person I saw was my husband, Gu Qingyan. He didn't even look at the two babies the nurse carried out, rushing instead to ask how I was feeling. Seeing the tear stains on his face warmed my heart. Giving birth was truly exhausting, but I was willing to do it for him because I have the best husband in the world. Our children are the proof of our love. Although I tried hard to stop him at home, hoping he'd keep a low profile, Gu Qingyan still announced the birth of his precious daughters to the whole world. Zhou Yiyi was the one who told me. At the annual party, the host asked CEO Gu to say a few words to motivate everyone for the coming year. Zhou Yiyi said, barely containing her laughter. But CEO Gu went up and announced the happy news of his daughter's birth instead. The entire staff was stunned. I held back a laugh. After all, who wouldn't love a perfect husband who adores them?